People, before we begin, there's something I'd like to ask of you. As you're aware, on October 7th, the nation of Israel was awakened at 6:30 a.m. to a siren that caught us in utter surprise. That siren marked the opening of the gates of hell. Innocent civilians, among them women, children, and even babies, have been abducted by Hamas into Gaza in the wake of a massacre that has murdered over 1,400 civilians in Israel. Our hearts are broken, and honestly it feels that nothing will ever be the same. On top of that, soldiers are dying daily in a battle for our lives and security. I don't think there's an Israeli who hasn't been personally affected and faced with tragedy since October 7th. Despite our deep pain, we're continuing to record this podcast, and in general to keep business going. We believe that resilience isn't just a slogan, it's the enduring spirit that's made Israel what it is today. Resilience, agility, and boldness are characteristics that strengthen us, even at times of great difficulty. It's also the story of our tech landscape. We always deliver, and when obstacles get in our way, we overcome them. Always. So what do I want to ask you? To join us in the demand that Hamas release those innocent people immediately. To let the Red Cross and Red Crescent be given access to them. Your voice matters. Now is the time to speak up. Consider that Hamas is after the entire Western world, not just Jews and not just in Israel. This concerns all of us. Thank you so much for your support.
Real life.
Superpowers.
We had all hands in the company. I told that to the entire team of Browsi. I told them, this is our way of fighting back, not stopping what we do, not stopping our business, not losing clients, not losing business. Being able to prevail is our ability to keep the market, the economic market of Israel, and also us as a company still alive and still going and still growing, because this is our way to win the war.
So welcome to another episode of the Real Life Superpowers podcast. Noah Eshed here with Renan Menipaz. Today we're happy to speak with Asaf Shamly, a visionary entrepreneur and thought leader in the AdTech space who co-founded Browsi, an AdTech AI startup back in 2017, with a mission to create a world where content and ads blend harmoniously. He's been at the forefront of innovation in the AdTech industry for over 8 years and has a wealth of experience which he's gained from involvement in 3 startups. He also takes a lead role in the open source community, championing transparency. And here's the kicker, despite all of his achievements, he's just 30 years old. Let's unpack the mindset that enables this.
Real life.
Superpowers.
Up in the sky, it's a bird. It's a plane.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
It's alive!
Real life.
Superpowers.
Asaf, welcome to Real Life Superpowers.
Hey, Noah Heroland, it's so good to be here. Finally, I mean, it's been a while that I've been following you and what you do, and I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, and full disclosure, we're also friends and we work together and have been for years. So this has been a long time in the making. So glad to finally be doing this with you. In these days, we can't proceed without first asking, how are you navigating the challenges that these days of literally war are making you face?
Yeah, this is an honest podcast, right? So I'm supposed to be honest as much as I can. And I'm not sure if I can curse, but it's shit. I mean, it's horrible. It's really one of the most horrible times that we've ever had in our life, both as people, Israelis, Jewish, all of the above. It's just a horrible time to be there, and it's also horrible to try and navigate a company throughout that, horrible times. And yeah, I mean, we're getting in there slowly. The first week, I think, was a huge shock for me personally and for everyone that I knew. We didn't really know what to do. It was kind of like a feeling where you have nothing you can rely on. There's no security. There's no sense of, place that you can call home even. I think a week after that, we felt a bit more okay, we know what happened. It's horrible. Now we have to just move on. So we have a bit more of it's just wartime right now. So we're just doing that while also trying to maintain like some routine, at least in our life, I think.
What are you doing? What are you doing differently in the company right now? Like what's like, how are you handling it?
So let's start from what happened in terms of my company. The company, we have about 12 people in reserve duty that actually went fighting. Two of them are literally in there fighting right now. We have no connection with them. The rest are like outside, and we do have some connection with them. So 12 people out of about 70 people company, it's many, it's a lot. It's more than 15, 16% of the company. Some of them are coming in and out. So they have like 3 days a week of duty, and then they come for 2 more days at the office, which is nice. And then first week we had this whole shock. We did not work. There's no production at all on the first week. We did a lot of volunteering. We helped a lot of families in the South. We funded therapists for our employees in the company, trying to help them, feel better during those horrible times. We understood how we're going to be doing everything. We kind of like planned ahead because we understood from the beginning it's going to be a long process and a long war. And very quickly, about a week later, we recruited 4 students, like computer science, engineering students that there's no universities here in Israel right now. So we recruited about 4 of them at the second week already to start filling up the gaps of those people who left. Obviously, we're not getting the same load. We're not getting the same work. We converted all of our dev team in the first 2 weeks to do other things like supporting clients and doing some work of CS and doing some TAM work, technical account management work. And now we're recruiting another 4 students, actually tomorrow and on Tuesday. They're going to be coming into the office, another 4 students to start doing some more work. So we basically said, okay, we know we're going to have those at least 9 people out of those 12 people in reserve duty. We're going to not see them in the office for the next at least couple of months. We have to keep working as a company and keep our production and what we do. And for that, we just recruited a lot of people.
Asaf, but you're acting like it's like something that, like everybody has this problem also in US in every high tech company. And like, what to do, like on the, you're like, you have a strategic plan for full out war. Like, how do you explain that like you're agile enough to, know what to do in war? I'm sure that in like, not in a bad way to Switzerland, but if they would have gotten into like a war, I'm not sure if they would say, okay, I'll take 4 students. I'll switch this. This is going to be long, 12 reserve, 12 for,
So it's funny because I think that for us as Israeli people, we all went to the army. When you're in the military, in the army, you always have like plans for what happened in wartime, right? I'm going to get those people. I'm going to move there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And as a startup company, you do not make plans for war. Right. You have like, doomsday scenario when you run out of money or you have like, things happen, but you never think about, okay, it's going to be war tomorrow. Let's build up my plan for war. You never do that. And when it actually happens, I figured out maybe I need a war plan for Browsi, for my company, which is insane to think about. So no, but we had to be agile and being a startup allows you to be very agile, I think. So you get my executive team, and I even have one of my executive people, one of my closest friends as well, who's been with me for the last 5 years in building the company. He's actually in the Strip of Gaza right now fighting, right? So this is something that we also never thought was going to happen, like getting my executive team not being here. We had a few meetings with everyone that's still here. We wrote up a plan. We decided what to do, and we just moved along. There's no place to think about that. There's no place to even plan ahead, really. You're just saying, this is what's happening. I'm going to do this, and this is my way to fight. I told it to my team as well. We had all hands in the company. I told it to the entire team of Browsi. I told them, this is our way of fighting back, not stopping what we do, not stopping our business, not losing clients, not losing business. Being able to prevail is our ability to keep the market, the economic market of Israel, and also us as a company still alive and still going and still growing, because this is our way to win the war.
do you feel the fact that you're an entrepreneur and inherently that means that you're used to dealing with challenges all the time? And this can't be the first, although of course in magnitude it's very hard to compare. But do you feel you've sort of built up resilience through your experience that sets you up to better, I want to say, quote unquote, succeed through this situation? Or maybe it's not under quotes, but I think you get what I'm aiming for.
I think that it's easier for us as people that, as entrepreneurs, as people that are doing things in an agile way, as Ronen mentioned. I think that for us, we're used to seeing things happening quickly. I mean, you thought that you're going to have a round closing in I don't know, August, and then you ended up closing the round on November, right? So if things happen and you have to set it up, you might think you're going to close X amount of accounts and you haven't closed it. You might think you're going to launch a product by, this time, and you haven't done that. So you have to always adjust and set your company to success in all those different ways. And you don't have, a very big, I think this is what helps me very much because my structure of the company is trying to be as flat as possible, right? I have my own team of executives, which are about 8-9 people of executives. And then I have the rest of the team just reporting to them. So it's very easy for us to do things quickly. You just say something and then it goes very quickly to our actual execution team on the bottom. So we're used to setting up for doing things quickly. Nobody prepared us for a war. Nobody prepared me that in a single day I'm going to have 12 people of my team fighting and not, there's no communication. It's not that even, if somebody goes abroad for a vacation, you can talk to them. You have their phone, you can reach out, you can ask a question. I cannot even reach to most of them. They're not replying. So if we have knowledge, and this is something that's really missing right now, the knowledge these people had in a startup company, you don't have the layover to just have knowledge sharing, right? We're not doing meetings about, tell me what you know, and just record and have everything, super, documented. No, we have people who know stuff and we're just moving ahead that way. So I think that for us, this is the hard part, not only to be able to adjust, but to adjust to something that we never thought was going to happen before. It's the knowledge, it's the fact that half of the team reported that they cannot work on the first week because they're traumatized by everything that's been going on. And you can't really say anything about that, right? You can't really judge a person when they're telling you, I cannot work, it's too frightening right now, there's alarms going, there's sirens, alarms going on, things are happening. Israel is a small country. We all know someone who has been, I don't want to say, a casualty, but at least hurt by this horrible attack on October 7th. So it takes us a long time to understand really what to do. And I don't think that it's enough to be agile. I think that looking at the long-term effects of this thing, we will be losing things because of that. We will be hurted by that. And I know there's no way that we as a company will be the same in 2 or 3 months from now as we would be if that wouldn't happen. In terms of growth, in terms of resilience, in terms of the people that I have in my company, in terms of the people who's going to come back after the war to work, the company will look differently. I know that. And I can't believe that I cannot believe that, as an entrepreneur or as someone who founded the company, that's not say entrepreneur, it's a big word. As a person who founded the company, I don't think that anyone prepared me to the fact that one day I'm going to have a war and I would have to, deal with that. I knew, you always know that shit happens and you're losing clients and your tech doesn't work and you break shit and things happen. Nobody prepared you for a war.
So how much are you allowing yourself to be vulnerable through this and to also turn to help yourself and to try? You probably feel like you have to hold it together all the time and you have to set an example, but within that you're also human and your team is looking up to you. Like how are you dealing with it all?
I think that when I'm in front of my team, like when we do we have like a daily meeting, right? Every morning we have a daily sync, and I did just that an hour ago with my team, and they're all popping on the cameras because Sunday is a work from home day for us. And we'll look at them, and the first thing that I'm saying is like, how is everyone? How are you feeling? Are you okay? So I am trying to be stronger. I think that I am sharing how difficult it is for me. I have shared my story of October 7th, the people that I knew that were there, either in one of the cities or one of the towns next to the Gaza Strip, or also people that I knew from the party. I have shared, how I was during that time. October 7th was a very difficult day for everyone, and I have talked about that. But yes, you have to be strong, because if you're not going to be strong as the leader of the company, it's going to be very easy for everyone to fall apart. And what's actually surprising for me is that a lot of my employees told me that they want to actually come to work, to the office. They want to do what they do, so they would be feeling some sort of routine at least, because otherwise you're just going to be looking at the news all day, and that's not going to be good for you.
And Asaf, you're very young, relatively.
No, I'm not so young anymore. That's it. I'm 31 years old today. So
happy birthday, first of all.
That was smooth, Noah. Smooth.
No, but I think that you are. I think you're clearly a very young CEO. And let's reverse engineer that a bit. So did you grow up in a house that encouraged you to be independent? Did you have a dream of building your own things? Like how did that evolve?
It's a good question. I think that so when I was growing up, I really loved computers and like tech stuff. I was into that. My dad bought me my first computer when I was I think in second grade or third grade, which is 2001, 2002 maybe. That was my first computer. It was already a Windows computer, right? I'm not that old. He really pushed me into that, to be very technical. He is also an engineer, so it was very easy for him. So when I grew up, I had a lot of push on that front. I was not like this charismatic person, this leader person. I wasn't. I was really I was a regular kid, I guess. I didn't have. I mean, being honest, I didn't have many friends growing up, specifically in junior high and high school. It took me a while to find like my voice and who I am in this entire like thing. I wasn't very social. I knew that what I want to do is be this computer guy my entire life. So when I got drafted to the military, I got accepted to the intelligence corps. Big reason that I was able to do that is because my dad really nurtured me into writing code and understanding how computer works. When I was a kid, I built my first website when I was, I think, 12.
How did he teach you to learn code?
He didn't know code. He gave me this really big book, Visual Basics 101, with like a bunch of CDs, right? And you just put a CD and I was reading in English this entire book on how to write Visual Basic when I was like 10, I think, or 11.
What was the first thing you wrote? Was it a game?
I wrote a game. I remember it was a button. You click the button. Whenever something was on the screen, you're supposed to click it as fast as possible, and then it counts score, right? So if something put on the screen, you're supposed to click the device. It was a very stupid game, right?
It's Whack the Mole.
Very stupid, very simple version of whack-a-mole. Yes, exactly that. It took me, I think, a month to get there first time. Because first of all, it was in English, and I didn't know English very good. I didn't know English very well back then. And second of all, it was learning code for the first time in my life. So it was difficult. So when I built it, I fell in love with that. Yeah, I fell in love with doing that, actually. And then I wrote my first website when I was about 12. Also, did it by myself. I remember there was a typo in the URL in the domain that I bought. It was supposed to be the best downloads. A website where you can download stupid games like Chicken Invaders and stuff like that, but I wrote best with an A instead of an E, so it was the bust download. I think the domain still exists in my account from way back when. So yeah, I love that, and I wasn't a good student in school. I mean, I couldn't understand like the regular way of learning things. I couldn't just sit in class and listen. I was a very self kind of taught person, I guess. So this is what I've done. So I never did homework. I never, did that. And I had a lot of problems with that in school, this in junior high, in high school as well. But I was always doing things. Like I was never just, watching TV or playing outside or something. I was always learning code. I was always learning to do new things. I wrote video games when I was 16 years old, video games that actually had like RPG, role-playing games, if you know what those, kind of like the old Pokemon games. So I wrote a lot of those games, like 6 or 7, even published them on some website. I did that when I was like a kid, but never did my homework because I never got the reason why to do homework. Yeah. That's it. I got to the 8200, to the intelligence corps. I did that for 4 years. Cannot really speak about what I did there, but it was a meaningful and very interesting service. I think that this is the first place in my life where I actually learned how to be like more social, like more of a social person. I think.
What happened there that made you sort of acquire the social skills?
I think you have to be social there. I think you have to, because it wasn't a daily service, right? I had a course. It was a 7-month course. We studied every day from 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. in the night, intelligence stuff and like other things. And it was very, very difficult. And then you finish at 10 p.m. and you go to bed and you have your friends there. These are the only people that can understand what you're going through in those 7 months of studying like every day. And you have to become social eventually. It wasn't easy for me, I think, to really become social and open up to other people because I was very introvert as a person. But I think that just you have to. You're stuck with those bunch of people every day, 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. studying in the classroom, and then you have 1 hour before bed where you can actually socialize. You have to talk to them, right? And then my military service was somewhere up north. I was 10 days in my base and then 4 days back home. And that, again, these are your friends. You have to become social, right? There's like nothing. You're not allowed to bring laptops. You're not allowed to do anything. So you have to I couldn't do anything else. And then when I was about 20 still in my military service, they offered me to be a commander, to be like this, to have a team. I had a team of 13 soldiers, and I had to become a leader. And this is the first place I think that I actually became a leader, I think, or the first time that I actually managed people was in my military service. I love that. We actually had a very interesting conversation during the weekend with some of my friends. I met a couple of my friends, and we had a conversation about what makes you a good manager. I swear, it's a weird conversation to have with friends, but I swear this is what we did. And someone said something right. You have to love you have to want and to love being a manager. And I think that I've learned that at Browsi as well, that you have someone who's really good at their job, right? They're really good at being professional, at writing code or whatever. So you say they're naturally going to be a good manager because they can coach their team very well. But then you find out that these people are not good at being a manager because they are really good professionally, but they cannot lead or perform. They cannot teach. And I think this is what happened to me. I understood somewhere along the line during the military service that being, a commander there, but then, a team leader is eventually being able to lead. And that's more important than being the most best professional person in the room.
But how do you then learn? Because a lot of the times, and this is a common problem in general in what's called first-line managers across the world, also in enterprises, where for like the typical use case is that there's a really superb engineer, and then that engineer is promoted to management, and then they do not know how to manage, and they're also not coached. And then there's attrition. And in general, it's, the first line managers do have a very significant role. So that's really an issue also for companies. And I'm wondering, like, you obviously were able to acquire the relevant skills. So how did you do that? Was that something that you gave thought to? Was it more intuitive? Is it something that you're still paying attention to? Where do you stand?
First of all, I do still pay attention to it. I think that someone along the line told me that as a manager or as a leader, you don't need to know really everything. You don't need to be the best in. I mean, I manage teams. I manage people today. I manage my CTO and I manage my VP marketing and my revenue person. I cannot replace my CTO and do the technical work that he's doing and coaching his teams. I cannot replace my marketing because I have no idea how to do marketing, and I cannot replace the revenue person because she's much of a better salesperson than I will ever be in my life. But what I can do is I can be their coach, right? I can help them get to where they need to get and set the milestones and goals and targets for them to reach what they need to do. And they will come in and be the best possible, professional person. But being able to set their eyes on the target and actually get there is my responsibility. So my profession is the way I look at it is leading and managing, right? My profession is not right now not being a coder or not being a developer or not being a salesperson. My profession is actually managing. That's it.
So how do you learn to do that?
Honestly, I don't think that there's an answer for that. I mean, I'm sorry for being
No, but you did. I mean, obviously, the learning curve also. Do you have some sort of feedback loop that you apply internally, or like how does it go?
I think that the one thing that I'm doing is trying to tell them that okay, so the way that I manage is I only get involved once something's not working the way I want it to work. But when I'm getting involved, I'm getting involved. I'm there. Like I'm fully there. I'm going to be on your shit. I'm going to be looking at your targets, and I'm going to be in your meetings. I'm going to be talking to your teams, because if you're not, you're reaching your quota, I'm going to be a micromanager, and I don't think it's a bad thing to do if you're not hitting your targets and goals. If you are hitting those, I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. As long as you're hitting your targets, I'm not going to be giving you a hard time. I don't care what you do. This is the way that I do things. And the second thing is that I'm setting a very high expectations and goals. I'm setting them very, very high because I want to know that, at least my executive team, I want them to know that I'm expecting high things from them. One of the things that I hate it, is when people come and tell me no, or I cannot do something, or this is not my job to do, it's someone else's job to do. And it can flip me because
why?
Because as an executive in a company, saying no it blows my mind. I mean, you have to be able to say, I'll do my best and I'll get there, right? Or somebody will tell me, this is not my job to do. This is someone else's job to do. I'm like, I don't care. You are an executive person. You have an important job, and your goal is the company's goal, and you will have to do the things that you need to do to get to your goal, right? If you blame someone else on the fact that you haven't reached your targets and goals, it's still your fault. And I guess that this is what, I mean, I think that my team loves me and hates me at the same time. I think that they hate me because I'm annoying. I'm an annoying person, right? I'm on top of things. I'm seeing all the emails. I'm talking to them every day. I know exactly what happened and what didn't happen. And I'm result driven, of course. It's buzzwords, but I'm very much result data driven. They love me because I'm always going to help them. I'm always going to help them get to their targets and goals. I'm always going to be on their side. But I'm going to do it in a very annoying way. I think I'm going to just be always there. And yes, I think I'm a micromanager in some cases, which is a bad word, I guess. I think this is I don't know. I think it's a not the what you would expect. But I feel at least as a company of 70 people, or roughly 60, 70 people right now, between New York, Tokyo, and Israel, I think that you have to be. I mean, maybe when we're going to grow to 150 people, I just wouldn't be able to do that anymore, and I have to trust them. But at least my executive team, I'm a micromanager, and I'm fine with that.
We're excited to be collaborating with the Israeli website CTech, owned by Kalkalist, Israel's leading business newspaper. CTech is the gateway of the Israeli high-tech to the tech world and vice versa. If you're not already a regular reader, we strongly recommend that you check out calcalistech.com, CALCALISTECH.com, to stay up to date on all high-impact stories from the Israeli tech scene.
Is there anything in the company that if someone leaves, you have a hole that you can't take over?
Like me personally, or
Like today for the marketing team, something happens and, the executive walks away. Do you feel his shoes, operations, QA, programming? Is there anything that you don't know how to do?
I think all of it, actually. If you would have asked me 2 years, a year ago, a year and a half ago, I would still tell you that I can do most of it. I think I truly think that sales is something that I cannot do. I mean, I can talk forever about the product and why we're doing the product and why is it so good and innovative, and I can talk forever about how good we are as a company and all of our successes, but it's going to be very hard for me to lead a client from the point of not knowing about who we are and what we do to the point of we're actually signing a contract.
Why?
I think I'm a people pleaser for everyone that's not working for me. I'm trying to please people, and it's a horrible, horrible characteristic. It's a horrible quality to have when you're selling. I think that if you're a people pleaser, you cannot sell. And I sometimes do that. And it's funny because it's easier for me with my board, for example, or my employees. It's very easy for me to not be that person because they have a stake in, I have a stake in. So it's kind of like it's easy for me to manage that. But when you're looking at a client, I really want to sell to them. Right? I really want them to sign a contract, and I want it so badly that I just give them everything, which is not the smart thing to do.
There's this saying that it's not a negotiation if you can't walk away. And maybe you're sort of feeling like you can't. So you need somebody who is able to be maybe less emotionally involved. I don't know exactly what your trigger is, because obviously it would make more sense for you to be more assertive in those situations. But maybe you truly feel like you got to close this deal no matter what.
Exactly. I think that when I'm talking to like VCs or investment firms and those kind of things, it's easier for me. It is easier for me with Israeli people as well, because I'm an Israeli dude, and it's easier for me to communicate with Israeli people because I understand like the verbal and non-verbal communication much better, I think. But I agree. I think that you need to. I mean, I gave up at some point. I think a year ago I kind of gave up, and I was like, I had a mentor for sales who helped me a lot, I think, and I was trying to become better at sales myself. But at some point, someone told me, you don't have to be good at doing sales. Just get the good people to work for you. And I think that this is something that really changed the way that I think. So I have Rachel today, which is amazing. She's my best salesperson ever had. She's a one-man show. She can sell, she can bring in the accounts, she can do that, and I'm making a lot of the introduction for her because I still know a lot of people, and I'm building that over time. But I know that she closes the deals, and I always tell her, you need to close it. Don't get me on calls because I wouldn't be able to close it. And I think it's working very well for me. So when to your question, this is the one thing that I would not be able to do. I think that on the tech front, yes, I do not know a lot of things that are going on in my tech right now because my team is doing that and I trust them completely.
But isn't it like the same feature as sales to investors? Like you're doing these sales to investors. What's the difference? Because
when you're selling to an investor, you're not selling really. You're actually I look at it as buying. I'm giving them the opportunity to be a part of my company, to be a part of my vision and about a part of the big thing that I'm building. I'm not talking to VCs, I'm not seeing as I'm selling them my company. I don't need to sell it.
Are we both thinking the same right now, Renan?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just say it. That's exactly the same with customers. I mean, I know enough to know that you believe in your product and you're not just pitching to VCs.
Knowing the fact that I'm supposed to be doing the same thing, I know that. Actually doing that is a whole different ballgame, right? Knowing that I need to be somewhere. I mean, I took a course in negotiation. I did all the things that you need to do. And I have all like the things I have the checklist, right? I know what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm talking to a customer and negotiating and selling. I know, and I'm still not doing that. It's very hard for me.
Why is it easy for you to do it with investors and not clients? which are basically the same thing at the end of the day, because they're buying into your company and the client is buying into your product of a company.
I agree. I think that with investors, again, for me, it's easy because I feel like I don't need them really, right? I can always find a different one.
Okay.
Maybe because with investors, you need one or two, right? And you talk to like 10 a week, I don't know, 10 a month, maybe. Right now, you're not talking to anyone because it's wartime, but you talk to them all the time, right? And I don't really need them. I can always find someone. It's not interesting for me, right? What I do need is clients because the company needs to keep growing all the time. I feel like I have maybe that's that. I feel like I have more to risk of not being able to sell to a client.
I see. So it's more from people pleasing. It's like from the wanting it to succeed so much, you're trying to push it forward, and not negotiating like you have nothing to lose.
I really think it's that.
Okay.
Every client I can at least. Well, today is a bit different. We have 180 clients already, but today we're a bit bigger. We can actually say no to clients, which we're feeling a bit better about that. But every client for me.
So tell me about the first client, like the first big client, the first study place client. How'd you close it? From like you're like a nobody startup, and not as a person, as a company. Like no one knows you yet. Here's the product. Like how'd you do that?
So we have a very weird journey as a company. I wasn't the CEO to begin with. I was one of the founders, and then the CEO left. I became the CEO. But at the beginning, I'm not sure if I can say the name. Fuck it. So we had like this Salt Lake Tribune. This is a Salt Lake local newspaper in Salt Lake, Utah, right? It's a Mormon community. I think it's such a small client. Like today, we would never sell to them, right? They're so small. We have even no idea. And we got a call with them somehow, and they wanted to test our product, and it was very exciting. And we were on that. I can't remember how we did that, but we were able to really generate a lot of value for them. We were very excited, and we were able to close them as a client. And back then, we didn't close clients for 12 months and for like SaaS, agreements, like real, true subscriptions, like we do right now. We just, here's a contract, give me some money, and I'll, whatever you're gonna give me, I'll be happy with that. So this is what we did. And about 6 months later, they decided to move to a different company that was much older than us, and it broke my heart. And I think that feeling that I remember to this day still, when a client leaves, and it doesn't happen very often, it happens, we have about 2.5%, 3% churn rate, something like that. So it's not happening very often.
What, lifetime churn rates or per month, per year, per
year? About 3% per year. This year it's going to be maybe about 4% in the end of this year. So it's a very good churn rate as a company, I think. Knock on wood. And anyone that's leaving, doesn't matter if it's a client for 5 years or 3 years or a year. Every time that a client churns, even if it's the smallest client ever, it hurts me. And I think that this feeling really, it doesn't matter. We have 180 clients. There's a client leaving, and I would not even know that they would leave, right? Wouldn't even feel it in my company's revenue. And it's still, to this day, it hurts. It hurts, and I'm seeing it on the end of month report of the clients that decide to leave, and it's something that I cannot explain it to anyone. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's an entrepreneur. I wouldn't say his name or his company, but he's an entrepreneur. He built his second company. And because of the war, he had to declare that basically default of the company. He was supposed to close around. All of his Israeli VCs said, we're not doing anything right now. So his company went to shit. He had to fire 20-something people. He had to close the company. And I talked to him on Thursday night, and he was heartbroken. He was devastated. He was like, And I was like, nobody in the world can understand that feeling as someone who built a company and you own this thing. You would never understand how horrible that is to basically say, I'm done. I felt, because the tech works, right? And he was able to sell to 10 clients or 11 clients, I can't remember how many, but he was able to sell to a number of clients, but he just couldn't get the next funding. So he had to close. And he was like, nobody understands me. People are telling me, well, you're going to sell the tech now for $500,000. You're going to make some money out of that.
But it's not only the war; it's also the inflation and the investors worldwide. It's been couple of rough years.
No, but in general, that feeling of building something and putting your heart and soul into it, and then having that dream crushed and having to close that down. I think it's like Asaf is saying, it's something that a person who hasn't experienced it would have a very hard time understanding why it is so soul crushing and not.
If you're an entrepreneur, it's inevitable. At least once or twice or 3 times or maybe 5 times. Statistically, it's inevitable.
Right. Still. But I think, Asaf, what you're saying is that people find it hard to understand how emotional those things are.
Yes, 100%. Because you know, when I talk to my friend, right? Just a random friend, and I'm bitching about the shit that I'm having through work, this client, and that employee, and that team, and that whatever, and they're like, their immediate answer is, who cares? It's just a job, right? Or it's just work. For someone who does not own this and is liable to this thing, and they would never, I don't think that they understand how soul crushing it is that something doesn't work. It doesn't even have to be closing a company. It can just be not landing that huge client that you were trying to land for last year, not being able to retain a client, not being able to, keep your employees happy and have a bad employee churn rate. I mean, all those things, this is so hard. And if I'm going to go back to the war, we started talking about, everybody's feeling the war. It's shit for everyone, but you're supposed to also feel shit about the war and feel shit about what's going on. And then also you're somehow supposed to maintain a company and keep that working while you're doing that. And this is, I think, something that it's just very hard to do. Because my friends have the liberty, the people that I know have the liberty, have the ability to not work right now. To tell their manager, you know what, I'm feeling bad, I don't want to work. I cannot do that. I cannot tell my board, oh, you know what, I'm feeling like shit, I want to take a week off right now.
I think that feeling is impossible for people to understand, more than the failure. Like, people fail, but the you cannot fail because other people are dependent on you, or you cannot go up to someone and say, I have a problem, listen, the money is not running out, I have a problem, there's war, I don't know what to decide, should I do this or that? You have no one to go to. That feeling, I think, is less, even more hard to relate to, because most people have a address for pushing problems and wanting solutions, and there's people who that are responsible for those people, and people like yourself that don't have anybody. You're responsible for people or for money or for something, but you're responsible for your own destiny. Saying I'm done is actually failing all those other people, and you have no one to blame. You're actually the person to blame. So
you can't say it's just filling the blank about almost anything that happens under what you're in charge of. And maybe you can say it, I don't know,
no one gives a shit.
No, but even
No, at the end of the day, they may give a shit, but at the end of the day, no one gives a shit. It doesn't matter. It's like Asaf was talking about the KPIs that he gave for his employees, right? That they're very hard to get to. At the end of the day, his KPIs are the ultimate goal, and no one gives a shit.
But among that, you have to be able to emotionally handle that, and you can't dismiss almost anything, because sort of tragically, the day you start dismissing and mean it, when you start saying it's just a customer, I think that's the tipping of a sand clock, because it just means you've begun to not care, and from now on, it's up to faith whether or not this can somehow happen without you being emotionally invested.
Often I say that I really want to have a manager. Sometimes I just want to have someone to manage me, right? I just want to have a boss for a second, right? Both because I need a push sometimes, because sometimes if you don't have, you don't have to get this email right now, you don't have to do this right now, then sometimes you're just slacking off. Also, as a CEO, I'm running away to doing the things that it's easy for me to do, right? Rather than making big plans for next year or making, writing the next all hands meeting presentation, which is things that I hate doing, right? I hate building decks, right? So I just run over to the things that it's easier for me to do. Sometimes when I have a manager who would say, no, you have to do this right now. Sometimes I want to have a manager or a boss that I can just tell them it's hard, and they would say, I know, let me see how I can help you. And I don't have that. And you never have this as a CEO. I mean, you have someone to call to. You always have someone to call to, but for some reason, they never care about you. They always care about the money that your company makes. So,
So, Asaf, this is interesting because you said in the beginning about the war and how you made up that plan, right? So, someone smart said to me once that, being an entrepreneur is actually fighting against the wind because you're actually simulating and building targets that you imaginary targets and imaginary times and imaginary deadlines with, imaginary projects that there will be an imaginary success at the end of the day. And you have to commit to that belief that those are the right times to do it, where actually in your head, sometimes you fight with that, exactly what you're saying. Where like you don't have a manager saying, I would really love it to be important for me till the 14th of December to finish that deck. But I know that if I'm not finishing it in the 14th, I can finish it in the 21st and maybe even in February, that won't be a bigger problem because that's the problem with deciding. So it's actually, the hardest person to manage is always yourself. There's always the douchebag in your head saying, listen, maybe tomorrow, which is you. And there's always the other guy fighting, no, maybe today. And it's, that's who you're managing.
I think it's also like when you're doing something and you don't have a boss, right? And when you're managing it yourself, there's no one signing off on that thing, or there's no one saying it's good or it's bad. So when it's a clear KPI or clear goal, I have to create that report. So you create a report and it's easy. You know what you're doing. It's very, very easy. When you're building a deck, for example, when you have to write up an email and when you're pitching something, for example, and you have to prepare for that pitch, you are yourself the person who creates and also sign off, and you don't really know if what you're doing is good, right? You're not 100% sure that what you're doing right now is the right.
You just believe you're doing it good.
You have to believe it, right? And then when you have to do these kind of things, which are not not super clear, not set in stone, the result, then it's starting to be much harder for you to commit to doing, because you're kind of like afraid of, I'm not sure that I'm doing this the right way, so maybe I'll just push it off and push it off and push it off. And then it's the fight or flight kind of thing, right? You're getting a day before you have to present something, and shit, I have to do this next week. You just do whatever comes out. And I think that I'm good in doing this.
Wait, that means you have a boss. That means the people that work for you as an enabler are your bosses, because you have a deadline. Once you send that invite for everybody to listen to that presentation, you have a boss there, right?
And that's the boss. So this is something I actually do. I commit to things before I know or do them. So I commit to present something, or commit to do something before I know if I'm going to be able to achieve that or not. Because that would make me, because if I'm going to tell one of my employees, for example, my revenue person, she brought a very big client that has a lot of onboarding needs to be done. And she was like, I'm not sure that we can do the onboarding for this client by the 1st of whatever, right? And then I was like, we're going to be able to do that. I'm going to hire the people, or we can do that. And then, of course, we cannot do that right now, but I have to make it happen. So then we're running around trying to make that happen. And this deadline is my boss kind of thing.
Do you know Parkinson's law?
Parkinson, no.
It means that a task is going to take as much as you allocate to it. I think you're actually living it.
No, that's actually a genius. And if you think of every leader historically, that's we will free all as an example, all the slaves. We will get out of this economic crisis in 4 years. At the end of the day, that's how you do it. You commit to that deadline. And that's a genius way to manage a company.
Asaf, do you recommend to people to do this, to be entrepreneurs?
He's thinking.
That's good. I don't want an intuitive one.
I don't think there's a choice for me, at least. I mean, there are days, like the shitty days, the horrible days, the days that I hate, where nothing works out, where your clients are horrible, when your employees are not good, and there's a war going on. And these days, I'm imagining myself as a taxi driver, just doing my 8 days 8 hours a day driving people around, collecting my paycheck, and just going back home. Listening to music all
Even
day.
then, he's
on the
imagining
radio.
himself he doesn't imagine himself working for someone. He's still independent, but in a taxi.
I have to say, I really relate. I understand what he's saying.
And this is the tension between what I do and sometimes what I want to be, I think.
Right.
But I don't think I can actually do that, right? And I think that then maybe you can relate as well. I don't think that I can actually do that.
There's a problem because when you get to destiny, I do have to say, for an entrepreneur, I don't know it's for there, but once you go black, and I won't continue the sentence, it's really hard to control your destiny and then release it afterwards. That's like the biggest problem for me, saying, listen, I can control this dream of mine, and then I have to release it as if I'm the same person who doesn't believe I can actually do that myself.
So I think the question maybe Noah that you asked is it's irrelevant because I don't need to recommend it to a person. If the person is the type of doing this, they will do that. If they're not, they won't do that.
How do you know, though?
I don't think you know. I think there's a very good chance also for myself that in a 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, I'm going to be back on the seat as a hire, as an employee, and I might be happy about that. There's a very good chance that might happen. I cannot imagine that. It's very weird for me to imagine that, but there's a good chance it might happen. I think that you go through things. I mean, you sleep less at night when you do what we do. You're stressed. You're thinking. You're constantly thinking about things. And I do want to have a period in my life where I could just be happy and not be happy, but I'm worried about that. I would recommend for anyone who feels that stomach thing that you mentioned, I would recommend to try it. But as soon as you feel like you cannot do that anymore, just don't do it anymore. It's not worth it.
I gotta say, you're making me think about an insight that I've been having these very, very difficult days in Israel now, and it's in line with what you said about the be happy but. And one thing that I feel I'm realizing over the last few weeks is that part of being alive probably means having to hold that complexity at any given point of being happy. But like, there's always going to be some but, and like the but that we're experiencing these days isn't mainly work related. Obviously, I'm not talking about all the challenges you're detailing, which are clear at this stage. But I mean, in general, I think I'm realizing in life that that but is always there. We sometimes prefer to overlook it, and sometimes it stares us in the face because really bad things happen. But maybe the essence of, being here on this planet is being able to be happy despite and but. So it's something to think about.
It's funny that the things that I think about lately because of the war a lot is the fact that most of the world doesn't live what we live. And most of them doesn't have to go through what we are going through, I guess. And I mean, we're going through very difficult things, regardless of the war. I mean, living in Israel is a very hard thing to do. And I'm not sure I can tell you if I agree or disagree with what you said. Not because I need to live somewhere else for a while where this thing happening here is not, my experience. And I've never had the chance to do that. I've been living in Israel my entire life. So I don't think that I can tell you that, yes, because I do feel like if I would be living in Sweden or Norway where they're so happy about everything, I don't know, I might not be an entrepreneur because I think that it's kind of like I'm already not happy, so let's just take all the shit in while I can get, right? I mean, it's already shit, so let's just throw some more in there. Maybe I
Wow.
don't know.
Okay. I'll respect where you stand.
No, it's already shit, but he's saying at least I can make it a little bit better. It's not a bad thing. It's like he's saying, listen, I'll fight it and maybe I'll make a bigger difference. if there was no difference to be made, then maybe he would be okay with it. It's okay.
Okay, I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, and like without people who want to try to make a difference, even that even a good product comes from a shitty place. Meaning, I can make this product better, right? Steph, what would you say your superpower is?
Shit, I should have thought about this question before we started, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, yep, definitely on you.
I think I can read people very well. I think that the one thing that really helped me is I have very, very good emotional Q. I mean, EQ. My EQ is very good, and I think that being able to relate to people is something that really helped me along the way.
Do you think it's a combination between your EQ and IQ? Like finding someone who is also analytic that has an advantage on the emotional IQ is usually unique.
I think it might be. I think that I mentioned before that I'm very annoying, and I think I'm annoying because I understand things very quickly and I want to get them resolved. But the only reason why I can be annoying but still get away with it with my team, and my team loves me, and I can still manage them, and I can still get to results because I can also relate to them. I can also be very with them in the process most of the time, at least, and this helps me build that tension between being this micromanager, annoying person that I am, which I am, and also being able to retain my team, make sure that they're happy, make sure that we know that there are more important things in life than work. And building on that tension, something that I can do only because I can understand people, I think.
And your weakness?
My weakness, I would say, is that I do not do well with failures. I mean, I know maybe it's a given, but failures for me are a hard thing to take in. Still,
what happens when you fail? Like what is it? Anger? Is it do you quit? Do you?
It's more of a feeling. It's a spiral feeling when I fail. It's a spiral feeling that everything is shit. I'm not good at what I do. I'm not sure who the fuck gave me the keys to this car, which is my company. I'm not sure who put me in that position. I'm horrible in doing this.
And how do you get out of that spiral?
I learned that I should not get out of it. I should give it time. It's gonna be done today, right? But when it happens, I need to give it the day. When I'm trying to fight it, it's just worse, kind of like. Because what happens is that I'm gonna get everyone around me feeling the same. Because I'm gonna be fueling the system with more anger and stress, and I'm going to be calling people like, why did we fail? And let's do a postmortem. And how can we save it? Not going to do this, not going to do that. And it's not good. It's not good because I need to learn how to deal with that thing. Because I need to understand that failing is sometimes inevitable, as you said. We all know we're going to fail. But the way you handle that, the way you respond to that failure is only something that is me. This is only me. And if I'm going to be putting that feeling in the way that I deal with it to my team and to the other people, I'm not doing good for anyone.
Yep. It's actually, I said to my son long ago when he lost a game and he got, I think it was a card game, a taki game, or chicken taki or one of those. But it's when you lose, you actually can be happy because there's somewhere you can get better. There's nothing you can learn from winning. If you're winning, that just means you're playing against people that are less than you. There's nowhere to progress. You have no action items thinking, you can do better. The only place you have is when you lose. That's why getting into it is sort of like, the more interesting part of it and getting out of it. And it's a tough thing to do. And I like that. Hugging the experience of also failure is a smart thing to do. Thanks, Asaf.
And also, when you're learning how to fail, I think you're learning how to learn.
That's the only place you can learn.
I think that something happened to me when I was a kid. I remember I was like, I think like I was 12 or 13, and it was the time where everyone was writing a blog, right, online. So I was reading that blog about the 10-90 rule. I'm not sure if that's correct. Maybe some 16-year-old girl in somewhere in the world wrote it, but I remember this to this day. It's you probably cannot control 10% of what's happening, right? Because shit happens. Like I could not control the war happening. I could not control the client leaving in some cases. I could not control an employee wanting to move somewhere else. I could do my best to try to and avoid it. I can't control how I react to that, which is usually 90% of something happening. And I'm trying my best. Usually I fail, but I try my best to control how I react to those things that's happening to me and to my company, to everyone around me. And this is maybe the only thing that I remember still to this day. It's very hard though to control the reaction to something. Yes.
Asaf, thank you for being so vulnerable and so open.
Humility.
And I want the listeners to not be mistaken for a second. This is a winner. And in many ways, this is how a winner speaks, because the reality is that many winners just aren't as open. But we just got a peek under the hood.
Thanks for your humility, Asaf. We really appreciate it. And keep safe, and I wish you the best of success.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was great.
Great. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Also, if you have a moment, we would really appreciate it if you could rate and review our podcast on the platform you're listening to. This will help others find our show. And as always, if you know anyone who you think would enjoy our podcast, please share it with them. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back as usual on the 1st of the month.
Real life.
Superpowers.
Up in the sky, it's a bird. It's a plane.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
It's alive.
Real life.
Superpowers.